But yeah, thank you everybody for joining our session here today. So it's very nice to be here at the MRMW event in Berlin. For me, it's my first time. I don't know if you, Nick, have you been here before? Second time, right. And I think also it's already the second time that you're speaking together with Stravito, which obviously is great. So today we're going to talk about sustainable innovation and brewing creativity and innovation at Carlsberg. Oh, I should take this one as well. So really shortly, what we'll be covering today. So overall, we'll be covering how Carlsberg's partnership with Stravito has helped them to grow and maintain an innovation-minded culture of creativity fueled by insights. But before we head into that, I'll quickly cover today a bit of a background about Stravito, who we are, what it is that we do, in case you don't know us yet. Then I'll hand it over to Nick, who will tell you all about how the right knowledge management platform helps Carlsberg to stay aware of all the knowledge they have, react at speed, and also create more time for creative solutions to new and old problems. There we go. But to kick things off, I'd like to pose a question. Where does great innovation come from? How does it come to life? How do we maintain it, and also how do we nurture it? Well, I've given it some thought and done a bit of research myself. And my guess is that the best sources of innovation are problems. For example, did you know that a chemist called S.P.L. Sorensen invented the standardized pH scale in his work at Carlsberg Laboratories? His inspiration was that he was trying to brew great tasting beer consistently across different batches. Now, at the time, that was quite hard to do. Wasn't really invented yet by the industry. But through his work, trying to solve these challenges, trying to find a better way to achieve this, he actually was able to really change the industry and drive the industry forward. So in the pursuit of the better. And while Stravito obviously doesn't brew beer, we're a technology company. It's definitely also been a key driver for us here at Stravito. So we actually have a strong background in both the technology space, but also in the market research space. To start with the technology space, both our co-founders, Thor and Sarah, were working at a company called iZettle, which was later on acquired by PayPal. And in their work there, they also found that finding solutions to common challenges was a great driver for innovation. One of the challenges they were experiencing at iZettle was that they had this huge amount of data, insights, and analytics, but found that it was very difficult to make sure that everybody in the organization was be able to access that in an effort to become more human-centric, and also in an effort to make more and better data-driven decisions. When looking into and trying to solve these challenges, they actually found out that the tools that they were having at their disposal were not always helping them to achieve those goals. Basically, the tools that they were having were quite difficult to use. They required a lot of different training. And so at the end of the day, a lot of people that had access to these tools were not really a fan and not really engaged to use these tools at all. And so typically what they saw was that they would head back to using things like email, maybe even Microsoft Teams. The problem overall was somebody left the organization and they basically lost access to that file at all. Now, obviously in a world where we have tools like Spotify and Netflix that are overall highly used by people, have high adoption and people really love using them, it's quite strange that in the workplace we have all these different tools, legacy tools available that actually people don't love using at all, is what we often hear. Now, at the same time, on the market research end, our other two co-founders, Andreas and Anders, actually had started a different company called Norm, which was later on acquired by Ipsos. And in their years working there, they found themselves on the other end of the stick, which was that a lot of the clients that they worked with were coming back to them and said, hey, a couple months ago we bought this research asset from you. We put them somewhere in a tool or in an email account. Employees left. the result was that we didn't have access anymore to the asset. And so for them, it became very obvious that a clear tool was missing to really access and find and share these insights from internally. And so coming together, our 4 co-founders, they actually realized that there was a need for a tool to maximize the value driven from insights and allowing companies to make more human-centric decisions. Now, also along that way, they wanted to help companies to really integrate the assets they had available in the company, really allowing them to simplify knowledge discovery, but also make more and better data-driven decisions. Now, today, Stravito is able to solve common challenges for insights teams. And you can see them listed here. Well, actually, I listed the top 3 that we come across, which is, first of all, time being wasted. We often hear that it's very difficult to find information in companies. Existing tools are often complicated and require training. Valuable insights going untouched because stakeholders aren't engaged, which lowers usage and adoption. And not enough time for innovation and creativity, creating librarians instead of excitement. And so for us, really, the goal is to allow our clients to ensure that insights make real business impact. This next slide here is probably a bit contradicting to what I've been telling so far, because I work for a technology company. But what I'm going to say here is this. The technology that helps, well, actually, tech alone isn't the answer. The technology that helps to solve these challenges is only one part of the equation. Especially, I think, in today's world, you probably recognize that a lot is changing rapidly. We have inflation. We have, supply chain structures across the world that are very challenging and changing. And so for us as a technology company, it's really important that we are a true partner of our clients to help them to innovate in a very sustainable and future-ready way. Today, we're very fortunate to help a lot of different companies around the world to improve the way that they share knowledge internally, how they use data for better business decisions. And an integral part of our product development has been the like-minded insights leaders who have chosen to partner with us. Now, one of these incredible partners is here with us today. He's standing right next to me, Nick Rich, VP Insights and Analytics at Carlsberg. One of the most beloved beer brands in the world. So I'll give it over to him to tell us more.
Thank you, Jordi. Obviously, it's great to be here together for the first time, I guess. First time for me since all the shenanigans of COVID. It's nice to be back in the room with like-minded individuals. And I'm hoping in the next few minutes I can just give you a flavour of 2 kind of things, really. One is how Stravito helps us be more creative, is really where the key to this is. So I want to give you just a bit of background. For those who don't know Carlsberg, of course you've all heard of Carlsberg, but for those that haven't or aren't familiar, we're a business 175 years old, starting in Copenhagen in Denmark. What you see here is the famous Elephant Gate, which is part of the original brewery. My office is just at the top of the hill, like behind me. So we're still there where Carlsberg originally started. We operate in 140 countries, 150 countries. We've got over 140 different brands, some of them internationally famous, but most of them locally famous. So it would be one of the biggest brands in your individual market. In Germany, it happens to be Holsten and Lubser. Not necessarily big across the world, but big in their part of Germany up north. Carlsberg's a very unique business, and it was started by J.C. Jakobsen in 1847, but it's unique for a certain reason. And in fact, people talk about businesses finding their purpose. We always had one, and his purpose was to brew perfect beer. And just so you know, he developed the yeast. The same laboratory where the pH scale was invented, they developed the perfect yeast, which is basically the yeast that was shared with all other brewers around the world and is the source yeast for 95% of all beers that you drink today. So Mr. Heineken, there's a letter to Mr. Heineken saying, Mr. Heineken, I've developed this yeast, it makes a perfect, sustainable, consistent brew, and Heineken's made of the Carlsberg yeast. Just so you know that. Anyway. Denmark is full of beautiful people, but I'm also going to let probably the most beautiful man in Denmark tell part of our story. So if we can go on to this.
We believe that by making a better beer, we can make a better world. That's why, through the Carlsberg Foundations, almost 30% of our dividends go to science. Space exploration, to find giant black holes. Yachts. And to develop the crops of tomorrow. So no matter what happens in the future, there is always beer. So, does all this make your beer taste even better? Probably.
So the unique thing is we are part foundation owned, always have been. 30% or 33% of the business is foundation owned, and that foundation is there to reinvest in society, for the good of society, and that was part of J.C. Jacobson's vision. So, all the profits we make, a third goes to good causes, essentially. Science, pharma, agriculture, all those kind of things.
Do you believe that by making a better beer?
We won't say it again. Anyway, the point of this is we've always had innovation at our heart. We haven't always been great at it. I'm not saying we're perfect now, but we've always had innovation at the heart of our business. So we have this kind of idea that we're obviously trying to find the next big thing, and we're not always first to market, but with innovation, you can have a constant cycle of innovation, and actually it's very hard to make them successful. You all know this. You've all kind of been in this world, testing products, testing concepts. How many of them really break through? Not many. And we have this mantra, yes, trying to find fewer concepts that are going to be bigger and better, and can we produce them and get them to market faster? That's the ambition of all of us. And it's hard work. It really is hard work. And there's a box on the right-hand side where I talk about finding concepts that are actually happening, because things go right through the process and they get launched and they fail because we haven't got the drive to invest any more than 12 months. And after 12 months, people get bored. And if you don't get the volume, innovation is really, really difficult. So we have this kind of idea of how can we get better at it. So one of the key things from an insights point of view is trying to make the business more intelligent. Innovation is going to happen if you've got more ideas flowing through the business, and more ideas come from more knowledge. And so we're trying to make the business more intelligent. So what you need is good platforms for an insight team that help people access and understand all the consumer information that we've got, wherever it may be around the world. So if something's going on in China, that knowledge should be shared with people around the rest of the world and the rest of the insights group. You've got to be able to access that quickly to enable you as a business to react quickly. Either first to market or be a fast follower. That's a good strategy as well at times. And then being able to adapt and react as you learn. So these are all behaviors we know are good, and it's not always easy to put them into practice, but we're trying. At least we've identified what the good behaviors are. So it's about accessibility, speed, and creativity. If you can get the first two right, what you find is the last one suddenly gets kind of rocket powered. And that's what Stravito helps us with. Let's just look at some examples, because I know what it's like to be in an insight team. You think it's like the cool waters and it's all smooth running, and when you look at all the marketing information, yeah, we know everything and everything's cool. But you know it's also like the right-hand side, particularly now where you've got pandemics and affordability crisis, possibly recessions. That's what it feels like on the right-hand side to be an insight team right now, because people need information about what's going on. You've got to be able to predict the future somehow. I've worn out so many crystal balls, it's crazy. But that's what it's like. And so you need platforms that bring a bit of stability and a bit of calm, a bit of control. And that's what Stravito does. And for the last 3 years, we have our own insight hub, as a number of you do. I know Just Eat, you have the hub. We have our own insight hub, and it is the center point for everything to do with insights. But Stravito is at the heart of making sure that everyone has access to the knowledge and can find out anything they want on any given topic. And it's the power of that engine that makes that happen, and it's accessible to everybody in the business. 40,000 employees can access it. So it really underpins what we do, and it doesn't take any rocket science. What's on there? It's all the kind of produced knowledge, the kind of formal insights that we've extracted, but it also beginning to include more and more data. It's not necessarily our data analytics platform, but it houses the insights that come from that. And so again, making it easy. We always talk about knowledge and insights as an asset. It's a knowledge asset. It has value. Stravito helps us reuse that asset. We get more value out of that product. And that's the way we look at it. And that's why everyone has kind of latched onto it. They see the value, they participate. So, we have, yes, all our insights on there, but we've also got all our capability building elements. So protocols, guidelines, methodologies, questionnaires, pre-launch, post-launch. we really started to build the culture. You've got to have some process. It can't all be free thought and kind of crazy chaos. You've got to bring some structure. And again, Stravito allows us to create collections, organize our data. We've got almost a kind of university of innovation on Insight Hub. So this has really helped us kind of organize ourselves and make sure the business is getting more intelligent as we go. A couple of other things that help us with our creative innovation, things like our Carlsberg Trends framework. I mean, you'll all have your own versions, 6 different mega trends within those, another 18 to 20 sub-trends. We have all that to understand how the world is moving, how our category is impacted by a changing world, and then you have things like demand spaces. Again, you've all got your own segmentation. Ours happens to be called demand spaces. I don't know if that's out of fashion now. Probably is. But to have all this housed on Stravito, it's the instant kind of portal. It's the instant entrance into everything that's going on in the outside world today, a window into tomorrow, but also very, very clear understanding how to articulate the consumers. Our marketing colleagues get to feel like they're putting themselves in the consumer's shoes. Everything is available. And we wouldn't be able to do this without Insight Hub, because before we were in this chaotic world of subfolders, stuff being on people's laptops, and you've got to kind of, yes, democratize, not the best word, but you make sure that it's available to everybody. And Stravito has just enabled us to have this structure. So when it comes to accessibility and speed, Stravito's really, really helped us. What's the kind of outstanding benefit of that? It's about more creativity. What you hope more creativity leads to is better innovations. Now, from an FMCG point of view, or certainly our point of view, we've tended to focus on what will bring scale. And when you've got a kind of scale and volume mindset, you're automatically thinking of kind of mass production and usually the early or late majority, what products are going to hit that group. That's fine because it's been very successful. The volume, the profits, the revenues, it comes from that group. But more and more what we're finding at Carlsberg is we're now able to start exploring the early adopters. So those kind of innovators, early adopters, start trying out a few things that we wouldn't have had the guts to do or the confidence to do in the past. So a couple of examples for you to show where Carlsberg innovation is going. I talked about innovators and early adopters. One thing we've created is a brew club, which is a subscription model. And for a few kroner a month, you'll be sent genuinely experimental brews. So we have a mad collection of brewmasters. Trust me, they are mad. They are like master chefs in the way that they brew and concoct flavors and inject science into the art of brewing. We've created this brew club, and as I said, what you do is you get sent a box each month of some experimental beers. Now, 2 things. One is these concepts have always been thought about, tested, and kind of perfected in the brew, but we haven't understood how to commercialize them yet. So we have this group who then can taste that. But the key thing for us in Insights is then we can then talk to them about it. And so we have this one-to-one dialogue with these people to talk everything about the brew and then the kind of situations they think they would drink it in. If it's a light Pilsner, you think the sun's out and with friends. If it's more of an ale, you think that's more of a solo occasion and you want to kind of taste. And again, you're acting like a beer sommelier and to help these people understand the perfect pour, the perfect way to consume. And so they have one-to-one interactions with the brewmaster who brewed the product. But it also gives us a fairly considerable amount of feedback on the concept itself. As I say, right through from the brew itself, right through to the kind of occasions people think they might drink it. So it's just being creative, a nice connection with consumers, being creative about how we get product into people's hands and get them to try it. One more, we talked about sustainable innovation. I'm going to let you touch the future, as you say. You can pass that round. So, this is something we're particularly proud of, and it's not finished yet, but if you want to talk sustainable innovation, then all FMCG companies need to be thinking about things like packaging. Packaging obviously is the scourge of society now because of our inability to find a way to recycle or control where that packaging goes to after it's been used. Cans and bottles have a carbon footprint. Not so much as plastic, of course, but we've got to be working to a more sustainable future where even cans and bottles might have to be a thing of the past. And so Carlsberg's been working with a number of different groups. to work on wood fibre bottles. So you're going to see this, whether you're buying food, drinks, cosmetics, you're going to start to see this packaging change because it's got to. And in fact, what we're seeing now is retailers are getting ever more tough on manufacturers to make sure they start conforming and start coming up with new concepts. So get used to it. It takes a lot of innovation. It's 10 years' work so far that's gone into that. Everything is 100% biodegradable except the cap, and we're working on how we can solve for that. But what you see is pretty solid. You'll also see something that feels like plastic, looks like plastic, and it technically is plastic, but it's PEF. And it's, again, within a year, it's 100% biodegradable. It will just turn into water and carbon dioxide. Again, I'm going to let the most beautiful man in Denmark tell a story.
We Danes are a resourceful bunch. We don't believe in wasting anything. Burning these would provide warmth. But what if we could turn them into something more? A beer bottle made from natural wood fibers. Would that be the greenest bottle in the world? Probably.
Unfortunately, there's no beer in that one. Okay. So to wrap up, look, it's only a snapshot. You know, everything you see here is part of a much wider ecosystem of the way we generate knowledge or find knowledge, generate knowledge, share knowledge, and act on it. But a couple of things I've learned. I actually lifted this, we talked about these ideas about 3 years ago, and they haven't changed in terms of what I find as the success drivers of getting kind of more creative innovation happening in the business. I mean, one of the things about insights, obviously, is we all face is impact and buy-in from the top. All good behaviours and bad behaviours start at the top. So we have a very supportive ex-com, we have a very supportive CEO in terms of how knowledge is embedded in the business. So you have to have that engagement, and again, for being brave and trying things that may not deliver millions and millions of hectolitres a year, that takes some brave decisions, and it also takes some investment. So you do need that support from the top. From an insights group, knowledge champions is really, really important. I look after the group function, and while we have kind of dotted lines to everybody in 35 plus markets and all the insight analytics teams there, I can't be on their back all the day, every day. And so we're very, very clear that to create a culture, everybody has to be of a similar mindset and push the knowledge we've got. And I cannot stress enough the idea of reusable assets. You can't just give a message once, and we've got very much into the habit and understanding that you have to tell messages 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 10 times to different groups, and get used to that. We have products we're creating, get the best value out of them. So knowledge champions are really important. And then lastly is the all-encompassing thing is belief and behaviours. No innovative culture is going to come out of a business unless you all believe of the possibilities. Identify a unifying challenge, a problem that we have as a business have. Everyone get behind it, and then the rest should follow fairly easy, within reason. But beliefs and behaviours, that's always my starting point for anything in insights, analytics, marketing, innovation, creativity. Start with the belief and behaviours, and that sets the tone and gives you a really good path forward. So no more Mads, and no more me. Thank you very much. Geordie.